Hi, we're Quaint and Curious Volumes. My name is James. Today I decided I would try to do a Friday Reads video. Sometimes people on BookTube make a little video on Friday about what they've read, what they've been reading. I've, of course, been keeping up with what I've been reading. Well, I'm keeping you apprised if you watch my videos. Um, but, let's just have a little bookish talk. So, I mentioned in my Hedda Gabler review that I had actually ended up reading all four of the plays in this collection of the four major plays. That is A Doll's House, Ghosts, Hedda Gabler, and The Master Builder. And as I also said in my Hedda Gabler video, I had some trepidation about reading Ibsen. I had a misapprehension that he was going to be kind of austere and not very exciting to read. But boy, he certainly was exciting. These plays read very well. Even though they're from the late 19th century, at least in these translations in the Oxford World's Classic, they are very exciting, almost like reading a dialogue heavy novel. A Doll's House, uh, a real, as I said in another video, a template for a lot of modern drama, it seems to me. That a lot of them are just sort of setting up a sort of superficial world, where everything is perfect and everything is in place, but there's one character who sees through it and kind of decides they're going to pull at it and unravel it a bit until it all comes crashing down. And that seems like, I don't know, like 70% of the modern drama that I've seen. Uh, Ghosts does something similar. Some of the details of that are starting to get a little blended with the other plays. Hedda Gabler, of course, I did my review yesterday. And then The Master Builder, for me, was the weakest of these plays. People's reasons for things were a little more cloudy. Um, the big shocking incident at the end was kind of pretty well foreseeable. Um, and it bogs down in very long dialogue between two characters that didn't make sense to me. So maybe I need to study the Master Builder a little more. I certainly do plan to read some more Ibsen when I can find good copies of Peer Gynt, perhaps, or The Wild Duck, or I think one of my commenters asked about Romersholm. So these sound pretty good to me. Another one that I read this week for Gable-pril, the booktube event that no one asked for, where we read books about Gables, was Anne of Green Gables. I read that this week in this Signet Classic paperback that I got. And, well, I'll give my full review next week. There's like 5 other books in this series. Suffice it to say, I'm not going to continue reading the Anne of Green Gables series. Though it was perfectly fun to read this one. And that leaves me with, returning to the thing I started reading in the beginning of the year, which is In Search of Lost Time. This is volume 2, Within a Budding Grove. And I'm a little bit of a way into it. It reminds me that you really have. So last night I picked this up around 9:30 and started reading, and it did not take. Oh, I'm sorry. It didn't take me long to sort of doze off. This morning, someone wanted to get up and have breakfast at 5:30. So after I fed her and took care of her and had my cup of coffee, I had good chunk of time to devote to reading Proust before I started working, and kind of was able to engage and lock into that Proust frame of mind where you have to sometimes hold your breath before starting on a sentence because it's going to go for some time. Uh, there's this, I'm 100 pages in, but it starts with he goes to see an actress. Well, it starts with him at a dinner party, but he's relating that he went to see this actress, Burma, performing, and she was famous. He was looking forward to seeing her for the first time on stage, acting in a Racine play, and everyone's talking about how great she is. He really wants to see it. He's like, "This is gonna blow my mind," and he's kind of underwhelmed when he sees her. And then she performs, and everyone gets up and is applauding wildly. He's like, "Yeah, I'm applauding wildly too." And he's like, "Maybe do I like this?" And then he tells uh, this ambassador who is visiting his family for dinner later that evening about how he saw her, and the ambassador goes on this uh, roundabout kind of this elaborate praise for her, and then the narrator reads a newspaper review of the performance that he saw and said how wonderful, how rapturous it was, and he's like, "Yeah, I guess I liked it." So uh, there's also another, well, when people talk about Proustian moments, Proustian Madeleine moments, uh, from the first volume, Swan's Way, when he tastes this tea cake, and it reminds him of all this stuff from his childhood. He has another moment, but it's not eating something; it is smelling something, and that is a damp lavatory. Interesting stuff. So that's within a budding grove. There was one other thing that was interesting. If you've, uh, I'm not gonna. I'll talk about it later, maybe. So I also started rereading Huckleberry Finn, um, or alternating listening to the audiobook and reading the Kindle version. So if are you a Kindle Unlimited subscriber? Because there's they have a lot of public domain classics and on there in the Amazon Classics version, and if you get one of those, they say purchase or read for free or whatever, although you're not actually buying it. But if you get one of those, and there's tons of them, Dracula, Moby Dick, Huckleberry Finn, you get the Kindle version and an Audible version. If you have an Audible subscription, they'll send the audiobook and they sync up, which is quite nice, because maybe you listen to a chapter while you're on a walk, and then you pick up your Kindle version. It'll sync to the same location that you were listening to. So that's pretty neat. I mean, that's one of the main benefits of I think of having I think if you have an Amazon Prime subscription and not a Kindle Unlimited, you still get that, but maybe there's not as many books in it. Louise is getting is getting bored of this conversation. So what else? I got some mail from Alan at Big Hard Books and Classics. I sent him my copy of the Finnegan's Wake Experience, because he collects Finnegan's Wake books, and I was not going to reread that book. It was fun one time, but so he sent me some cool stickers with pictures of Stratocasters on them, which is neat. Stratocaster, if you don't know, is a famous model of electric guitar. It looks kind of like that, and so he sent me some of these cool stickers. I guess Alan designed them. They're cool, and a nice little note, and then this cool watercolor of a guy with a stick, kind of walking across the countryside. Isn't that nice? So thanks, Alan. I'm gonna find a nice little frame for it, and hang that up somewhere because it's beautiful. So Then let's see. I wanted to talk about. Oh, so I did a tag earlier this week. I was also kind of feeling like on on Tuesday I'd been tagged for some things. I was like, I think I've been doing a lot of tags. Maybe I'm going to take the week off from tags. But then our friend Mild Rumpus, who I don't think he says his name, and I mean that's fine if he doesn't. But he got 1,000 subscribers. Congratulations to Mild Rumpus, and he created a tag which was a lot of fun. The Stay Gold tag, a reference to The Outsiders, which for people of my generation, there was the famous movie with all the young heartthrobs of the '80s in it, and of course I read the S.E. Hinton book and some of the other like texts I think I read and Rumblefish, which were other what we now call young adult novels, stories of these bad boys with hearts of gold. You know, it's okay. And I also, but it was a fun tag to do, so check that out. And congratulations, Mr. Mild. I also particularly enjoyed Jared Henderson's video yesterday called I think it's called Why I Quit or I Left Academia. And it was basically his story of getting a PhD in philosophy and the reasoning behind his decision to not try and get a job and to how he went into tech instead. A similar version to me. I was not a philosophy student. I got a doctorate in ethnomusicology. Um, Jared talks about the risks of becoming a an adjunct instructor, and he kind of skipped a few steps by not bothering to become an adjunct instructor for 5 years while trying to get a tenure track job. It is a real job to be an adjunct, but a tenure track or tenured position. So I did that for a number of years, and I can attest that when he says you are a second class citizen, that makes it seem almost too good to say you're a second class citizen as an adjunct. You are barely part of the academy when you're an adjunct, except that you're probably doing more teaching work than anyone else in your department. But made me think maybe I ought to make a response video and just tell my own story. Uh, Around the time that I was adjuncting, there was kind of a little trend of people writing essays and even books about why they were leaving academia or why they had left academia. It was called by some Quitlet, the Quitlet moment in places like the Chronicle of Higher Education or Inside Higher Ed, which are uh, uh, journals for college teachers. One that was very influential was by a an academic in German language and literature named Rebecca Schuman, and she had done a dissertation on Kafka and Wittgenstein. So pretty heady stuff. And she had been a teacher and had done all the things you're supposed to do to get a tenure track job, and uh, but she when she decided that she was going to get off the train of trying to get a job, she wrote this um, incandescent article about the decision not to get out of it, and then she wrote a pretty good memoir called I think it's called Schadenfreude, a love story, and it was about falling in love with German literature and language and going to grad school and living in Germany and all these things. So that was a pretty good read. It also reminded me of William Deresiewicz's Excellent Sheep, one of those books that really should have. I mean, I have a great deal of admiration for William Deresiewicz as a writer, as an essayist, as a thinker. I like him a lot, but Excellent Sheep definitely was one of those books that could have been a series of shorter articles. Um, but he also, there's an element of quit lit to his story because he spent so much time getting his PhD and teaching at Yale, but just never getting his next job, never getting a tenure track job, and becoming a professional uh, writer instead. So those are just some of the things I'm thinking about here. I'm about halfway through the Netflix Ripley series based on the talented Mr. Ripley series by Patricia Highsmith. I love those books. I don't think I read the last one. Maybe I started it and didn't finish it. But it's so the Netflix one kind of does a similar thing to what the Minghella movie from the '90s did. And I understand why they do it, but it changes the nature of basically the single most important thing that happens in The Talented Mr. Ripley. Okay, if you don't want this spoiled, just cut it off now. I'm not going to talk about anything else interesting. I'll give you one last look at Louise. Hey there, little snoozy. Okay, so the rest of this just going to be a minute or so of spoiling The Talented Mr. Ripley. So, the most important thing that happens in The Talented Mr. Ripley is when Ripley murders Dickie Greenleaf. So, in the book, this is planned. He plans what he's going to do when they go out in that boat. He knows what he's going to do. Now, in the movie, they make it like Dickie Greenleaf is, well, Tom feels upset because Dickie Greenleaf is rejecting him and saying, "I don't want to hang out with you anymore," and then Dickie is like yelling at him, and it's kind of a moment of passion, and and Ripley just snaps and hits him with the oar, and in the TV show, it's a little more. Um, he's a little more serene. He's a little cooler when he does it. It's not a moment of passion, but it's similar. It's not like he's laid this plan. It's like he does it. It's like it just kind of occurs to him in the moment. He's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna do it," and then he kind of coolly assesses what he's going to do afterwards. And there's a very extended wordless set piece of him dealing with the aftermath of this, which is I would probably remember for a while. So anyway, I mean, obviously they do it because you're not going to want to follow someone who is just a cold-blooded murderer, in a movie or a TV show. You're going to lose the audience. I don't know why it makes more sense in a book, why it works more in a book, but anyway, it has kind of always bothered me the way that they make Ripley kind of less completely evil by doing it that way. If you're into antiques and thrifting and like just old gear and old stuff, this is a really great watch because there's all kinds of things like watches and typewriters and cigarette lighters, ashtrays, and not just things that they don't use anymore, but things that we still have, but that were built so differently. Like, there's a restroom door that has a little occupied sign, and how there's this like big chromed piece of metal that kind of clanks back and forth. Elevators, keys. It's just like a lot of details of just like old vintage stuff, which is great to watch. And it's black and white, and it's Italy, and it's the Mediterranean. There's great scenery. I will say again, Andrew Scott is 25 years older than Ripley should be. The guy playing Dickie Greenleaf is also probably like 20 years too old to be Dickie Greenleaf, though he's good. But yeah. Anyway, so let me know. Are you watching this show? Do you think that they make Tom Ripley seem too good in it? I don't know. All right. Thanks for watching. Bye.